You have to be a continual student.
There you go.
Can I say it that way?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
A continual student of your spouse, because things change, because they change. And so what they liked 20 years ago, they may not like today. And what they thought was okay 20 years ago, or they thought something that wasn't okay 20 years ago is now okay. And so that's one of the things I really appreciate about us, is that I think that we've really done a good job of growing and changing and allowing and giving each other space to grow, and being okay with the change. Everyone, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Matters. This is a podcast where we talk about marriage matters because
marriage matters.
Yep, that's it. And for those of you who are watching for the very first time, I am Glenn Coleman, and I'm joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, happy, enjoyable wife of my youth,
Tanya Coleman.
That's her. Yeah, all those things. So, how's things going in your world?
Things are good.
Okay.
Yeah, things are good.
Okay. All right. Well, cool then. We're going to jump into it. So last week we did a whole episode about the Anatomy of Marriage app.
Yes, we did.
And hopefully if you did watch or listen last week, you went out and got that app. It's a pretty cool app. Like we said, there's a free version and a paid version. We just had the free version. And we went through some of the conversation starters.
Right.
And so you had suggested that we just do a segment every show about the conversation starters. So we're going to do that again. So we're going to go to shout out to the Anatomy of Marriage podcast, the app, Seth and Miranda. Is it Miranda? Melinda. Seth, I don't know why I always want to call her Miranda. I'm sorry, Melinda. Seth and Melinda Studley. So you want to check them out. But so you want to...
Yeah, I'll pull it up. So it's super simple. You get into the app, you go to the toolbox and games, and in there you hit conversation starters. And in there's a drop down menu where you can choose a topic, I guess, a family, intimacy, just for fun. Last week we did just for fun. So we will choose something different today. Okay. How about family? Okay, so you could ask me a question and I'll ask you a question? Yep. Okay, let's go for it. All right. First one. If you could tell our kids 3 big life takeaways, what would they be and why? Ooh.
Man. And this is on the spot.
Yeah, it is on the spot. We did not prepare ahead of time.
3?
Yes.
3 big things.
3 big takeaways.
Okay. Follow and develop your passions. Don't let anyone tell you who you are. You know who you are. And God has put the seed of who you are on the inside of you. And lastly, Lastly, I would tell them to do your best to do what you say you're going to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Want to take a turn? Oh.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Bethany and Bailey, if you're watching this, you heard what I said.
We'll have a conversation with them later. Good stuff.
So here's kind of kid related. What are 3 things you wish you had learned about kids before we had kids?
The investment of time of actually raising kids.
Okay.
I wish I would have learned before having them. This is hard.
No, yeah, go ahead.
This is hard.
Got 2 more to go.
I know.
First thing that comes to your mind, go.
The joy that they were bringing to my life.
Okay. One more.
And the challenge of raising kids. You know, they bring a lot of joy, but there's also a lot of challenge. And I think oftentimes that's more about me.
Okay.
Working on me.
Okay. Yeah. I agree 100% with all of that. And I will also say to all parents, especially new parents out there, look, you're doing a great job. Man, look, you're not going to get it all perfect, and don't believe the hype. You know, I remember when, and I laugh now, but it's like, I remember before we had kids, we were like, we're not going to allow our kids to just watch TV,
right?
All that stuff.
We had so many rules before we had kids.
When them kids came, Baby Einstein, DVD on.
Right.
It was just like whatever we could do to keep them occupied and engaged. You know, and Baby Einstein wasn't
Baby
bad.
Einstein, the VeggieTales,
all
that
was
educational,
stuff. All
and
that
Jesus.
stuff.
That's
so
what
don't feel bad. You're doing a great job, and it's okay. You know, you're gonna get tired. You're gonna get frustrated. You're gonna be all that's normal, is natural. You know, you may want to give them back, you know, but you can't. You got to keep them. So anyway, I just want to encourage all of the new parents.
Yes, you're doing a great job.
And then we're in this new phase of having 2 teenagers, which is a whole nother, praise you, Lord.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. But like Tanya said, though, one thing is, I'm finding that a lot of the stuff that we struggle with kids is more about us than it is with the kids. That's another podcast. So
yeah,
anyway,
much needed podcast.
Good deal. So let's get into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about, I just called it, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And that's one of the things going into marriage is you just don't know. And you can do some things to prepare for that. You know, like we offer premarital counseling, but we always tell our couples, even in the premarital counseling, is you're not going to find out what you really need until after you get married, you know? So we always make ourselves available to them, you know, even after, because you're probably going to run into some things. You're going to have some questions. Things are going to come up because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I agree. There are things that will come up in the middle of actually being married, you know, that you couldn't anticipate, you know? So, yeah.
And I would even say, even if you've been married before and this is your second time
definitely.
getting married.
Yeah.
You still don't know what you don't know because this is a different person. You're in a different season. So you just don't know what you don't know.
What you don't know.
So as I was kind of just doing some research on this and just looking through some old notes and pulling some things, I came across this online, and we talked about Johari's window before on here, and we were talking about blind spots. And this, but this is a kind of a different version of Johari's window. And it's having to do with the knowns and unknowns framework. And so if you could imagine, maybe I'll put up a graphic, known, unknown, and then knowns and unknowns. So, you know, in one quadrant, the first quadrant is, you know, the known and the knowns, which is things that we are aware of and understand. So I know about this and I understand the why behind it.
Okay.
Then there are the known and the unknowns, which are things we are aware of, but we don't understand. So we know they exist, but we don't understand like how they work, or, you know, maybe like rocket science, you know. I understand rockets fly, but maybe I don't understand all of the mechanics. Exactly. Then you have the unknown and the knowns, which are things that we understand but are not aware of. So in other words, these are like maybe preconceived ideas, you know, maybe some judgments, some things that we understand it, but we're not really aware of really what's happening. So think of, like, you know, like I said, preconceived ideas, judgments without knowing the backstories or those type of things. And then there are the unknown unknowns, which are just things we are neither aware of nor understand. So we're just clueless of that fact. Mm-hmm. And so I think, the danger in relationships, is the bottom. I'm trying to stop saying, so help me. Whenever I say,
okay,
punch me in the face. No, don't do that.
I just tap you. How about that?
Okay, yeah. So anyway, the things, that bottom two quadrants are the most dangerous, I think. Even, the things that we are aware of but don't understand, mm-hmm. that could be dangerous. But for me, I want to concentrate on, the things, but the two lower mm-hmm. quadrants.
The unknown and knowns.
The unknown knowns and the unknown unknowns.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's this poem that it was a result of Donald Rumsfeld, I think it was. He was the security advisor back when we were getting ready to go to war in Iraq. Mm-hmm. And he kind of brought this to light, the known and the unknowns. And he used this in his press conference. And so somebody kind of took that and made a poem. And the crazy part is we don't know. It's unknown.
It's an unknown author
who did this. But as it says here, as we know, there are known knowns. There are things that we know. Mm-hmm. We also know that there are known unknowns. This is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know. Finally, there are unknown knowns, the knowns we don't want to know. Mm. And I think that's really
we don't want to
sometimes know. We don't want to know, which can be more dangerous than anything. And
right.
You know that there's a problem, but it's just like, you don't even know there's a problem, and you don't want to know that there's a problem. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to know why there's a problem.
Right. It's like, let me live in this fantasy.
And we call that what's the word? Denial. Mm-hmm. It's not just a river in Africa. Anyway, that wasn't good. So being blind to things that you don't know can be pretty costly.
Yeah, definitely.
So can you think of any things, and we're talking about marriage, we're talking about relationships. Mm-hmm. Can you think of some instances where not knowing can be costly?
Sure. As you were talking, I was thinking of, in a marital situation where you married this person, you guys have become a part of one another's world. And at some point in your lives, the person begins to show behaviors, whether that's anger. I'll just use anger as an example. And they're unwilling to acknowledge or deal with their own behavior, mm-hmm. That with the fact that they're angry, mm-hmm. or they blame it on another situation or circumstance in the marriage or the family, but they're unwilling to investigate what's happening with them emotionally. Mm-hmm. So they don't know what's happening mm-hmm. underneath the surface. The spouse doesn't know what's happening underneath mm-hmm. the surface. And then they don't want to know. They don't mm-hmm. want to dig. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's painful, maybe that's something happened in their past that they know that they don't want to look at. They've kind of put it behind them. So they thought, situations like that where things come up in one spouse and the other person is like, where's this coming from? Mm-hmm. And the person that's showing the behavior is like, I'm good. It's not me, it's you. Mm-hmm. It's the kids, it's the bills, it's, mm-hmm. Whatever. Mm-hmm. But they're refusing to take a look at themselves.
Yeah. One of the scariest things for me is being in a situation where I think I'm doing something right, mm-hmm. but I've been doing it wrong all along, especially when it pertains to our marriage. And I can remember in this one particular instance, I thought I was killing the game. And then Tanya and I, and I'm not going to put all our business out there. Thank you. But we were watching this, I think it was a news interview or something, and they were talking about this topic. And I asked her, I said, well, how am I doing in this area? And, she was just like, I just knew that she was going to be like, oh, you're great. She was like, well, and I was just like, my ego was like, but I so appreciated the honesty. Mm-hmm. And I think that plays into this too, is sometimes we're afraid of the truth. Right. But here's the great thing that I've learned about knowing the truth is that when people are, especially when I'm not doing something right or mm-hmm. I'm not measuring up, I always say it's hard for me to hit a target that I don't know what the target is.
Right.
And so if you tell me I'm not measuring up in this area, then I now can say, okay, it may hurt, but then I can say, okay, what do I need to do better? Mm-hmm. Help me, tell me, or we could seek outside help, sure. And that's when, we could go and call a mentor or a counselor or a coach or someone that could help us mm-hmm. improve in that area. Mm-hmm. So I know for a long time in our marriage, I was in that, I don't want to know, let's just keep doing, let's keep status quo and let's just suffer in silence. And mm-hmm. we could put on a good front and we look perfect to the world, mm-hmm. But inside we're dying. But you have to, I came to a place, and I said this last week about being authentic. I just don't want to live that way anymore. Sure. I came to a place in my life where I didn't want to live that way anymore. Mm-hmm. And I wanted, if I really wasn't feeling a situation, then I just want to be able to say, I'm not feeling this. Mm-hmm. And I don't, you get what I'm saying? Right. So yeah. So why do you think it's such a scary thing for some people to admit they don't know?
I think it could be multiple things, that some of it could be ego. Some of it could be that they are expected to know. Mm-hmm. They don't want to let people down mm-hmm. or to be looked at as less of a leader mm-hmm. Than what they are because they don't know. Sometimes it's you don't want to prove people right. If you feel that people are already thinking or saying one thing about you. And so if you admit that you don't know something, then I'm going to be proving them right. Mm-hmm. Again, that goes back to ego stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that is probably a lot of why people don't want to admit that they don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to say, I'm not sure, or I don't know, but I can go and find out. I can discover. I can do the work. We can do the work together. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. Yeah. Because you don't have the stress of still trying to put on the front that you actually do know when you don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to me, that gets so tiring, just the pretending.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know. I've been in a situation where I've seen people just kind of. I know that they don't know the answer, but they're just saying stuff. And I'm like, that is not correct. Right. And so I never, and I never want to be that because again, it's like when you never, whenever I admit to myself, I don't know, then I put myself in a position to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you just go through life, just kind of, faking it all, is like, then at the end of your life, then, where is the fruit? Where's the, does that make sense?
The quality, the value. Yeah. I think that, when you're going through life and you're just faking it and pretending and all of that, you lose your substance, and it's just, you kind of have to deal with you, and that's hard, Yeah.
So, God dog it, you were saying it, I was smiling, you was like, you were saying, so I'm trying to say, and I just said it. But anyway, so I know. It's just one of those things I'm trying to
break that habit.
But yeah, so just don't be afraid to admit when you don't know, Don't be afraid to admit, I just said it.
Oh, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to admit when you don't know a thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. That's not an evil thing.
Right. And it's nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about.
Because you can't possibly know everything.
Amen. You need to say that for the people in the back.
You cannot possibly know everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So when I say I don't know, and I admit that to myself, I put myself in a position to start the journey to knowing.
Right.
You know, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to say it. So
keep going.
I know. So
like my glasses are dirty.
When it comes to,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead and clean them. So when it comes to marriage, particularly, you know, this is such a topic. The knowing, because there are no manuals, and of course we have the Word of God, absolutely. But for most people, they don't know. Like I said, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes that can be very intimidating, especially going into marriage. You know, we often joke when we were doing Married for Life, we would say, you know, there's, I said it again. Anyway, there's, you have to go and take a test to get a driver's license. Right. Pretty much every other thing that you do in life, there's some type of license test that you have to take.
For your career, to get licensed to do the type of work you do.
But for marriage, it's like just anybody could go get a marriage license.
Right.
It's $20.
There's no quiz, there's no test.
I think it's like $20, $25.
And maybe a little more than that now.
So it's there, but there's no manuals, right? We're stuck with most of our knowledge that we get prior to, especially if you've never been married before. You get that from what you saw growing up in marriage, maybe what you saw on TV. You know what the neighbors, the coworkers, and a lot of times these sources of information can be tainted.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, I remember whenever we first got married, and I was talking to another person I know who shall remain nameless, found out that we got married. Yeah. He was like, man, what you do that for? Why you go mess around? You could, you know, he was like, you should have, it's been better for you. And this is coming from a married man, right? And so his whole concept of marriage was like, you know,
you got to turn in your player's card.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So my point is, a lot of times our knowledge of marriage can be skewed and tainted by other people's experience. So I know you like definitions. So yes, I looked up the word knowledge.
Okay.
So I was like, this is for Tanya.
Thank
you. You wanna read that definition for us?
Yes. So knowledge. Facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject. Awareness or familiarity gained by experience of a fact or situation. Yeah.
So the thing I like about this definition of knowledge, that in both of these definitions, the word experience is there. You know, and there's this saying that we always say that experience is the best teacher. And then you have some people who say, well, experience is not the best teacher. You know, if I can learn from somebody else's experience, that's better. And I started thinking about that as I was looking over these notes, and I was like, you know, that's true to a degree, but it's something about when you experience something
for yourself.
I mean, I could tell you what's a good example. I have the perfect example. So there's this big debate about, you know, with race and all of this stuff. And, you know, with the police and Black Lives Matter movement. And, you know, there's a lot of people who are not Black who look at that situation and say, well, you know, A, B, and C about the police, you know, and I'm not saying that I am against the police. I'm not saying that. But you can't speak on that. You know, like a lot of people are against like the Colin Kaepernick when he was kneeling for the anthem. And I would say that you can't speak on that until you've been pulled over by the cops with for no other apparent reason, and they can't give you no other apparent reason other than the fact that you're Black. And until you experience that, then you really don't know.
You don't understand
what that's like. I know that's an extreme example.
No, it's a great example.
But I'm saying when it comes to, knowledge, especially for me, when it comes to marriage, you don't know what you don't know until you experience. And like I said earlier, even if you've been married before, this is something totally. This is a new marriage. Right. It's a new person. And even if you get married to the same person again, it's still, you guys are different. You're not 20 anymore. Now maybe you're in your 40s. I don't know. So you don't know what you don't know. So my point is the only way to really know is to experience it. And, shout out to people who are keeping us honest. Somebody who on one of our posts said something like, that's a good saying, but back it up with scripture.
Oh yeah, they need a scripture on that.
So I have a scripture today. But no, this is Philippians 3:19. I'm not Philippians, Ephesians 3:19. It's from the Amplified Bible, and Ephesians 3 is another one of my favorites. But Paul is talking about the love of Christ, and he says this, and that you may come to know practically through personal experience the love of Christ, which far surpasses mere knowledge without experience. So he says that. So I'm just kind of pulling that out to talk about knowledge. He says knowledge with experience is far better or far surpasses just knowledge without experience. So what he's saying is until you experience the love of Christ, you cannot really know the love of Christ. And that's the difference of what we're saying here. Is that sometimes you just have to live it. You have to live it. You have to experience it for yourself. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So the need for knowledge occurs usually when you start something new. So like I said, when we had that conversation, when we saw the interview, and I thought I was killing it, and you were like, no. So I was like, okay. You're doing all right. I need knowledge now. So that's when, so it's like, again, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know you need to know something until you need to know it. Until you need to know it. Yeah. Does that make, I know that's kind of a tongue twister, yeah. Yeah. I don't have to try to explain it more. You did it. Yeah. You talked about children. Yeah. Yeah. And not knowing, you come in having all of these, and I still see people posting things and saying things about, how they're going to manage and handle their kids and all this, and what they're not going to allow them to do. Yes, there are some things that are, they are just things that are character based, right? But when, and I'll give some examples, like before we actually had kids and we were in leadership and ministry, it's just like, we're definitely not going to be late for church. When we have kids, you got to do this, and this. Well, listen, when we had a baby and you get them all dressed and pretty and smelling good and ready to walk out of the door to be on time, and then they explode their diaper, that will cause you to be late for church. Yeah. So some of those things where we didn't know that this is some of the reason why, things happen in your life when you have kids. It will change your schedule. It will change your plans. It will, all of those things, because things the unpredictable happens. And those were things that we never considered because we didn't know that actually happens because we had never had a baby before. Yeah. And that also helps me dealing with people like us when we were 20 somethings and knew everything and to now I tell myself dealing with them, they just don't know. And so it's just like, I got to give them a pass because they just don't know. As a matter of fact, man, this just, while you were talking, this hit me. That's how Jesus could forgive the very people who crucified him. He said, Father, forgive them, for they what? They know not what they don't know. So he can forgive. So anyway, I don't want to go into my preaching bag.
All right,
man,
sir.
hallelujah. But yeah, when you have a new baby, but I was going to say, I remember we went to the classes. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
We went to the
Lamaze classes?
No. The baby class. You remember?
Okay.
They showed us how to swaddle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We actually had little dolls, mm-hmm. and so we had to go and get knowledge because we didn't know.
Right.
And not only did we didn't know, but we wanted to learn
mm-hmm.
the proper way. We didn't want to hear it from
right the way Susie Grandma up the street did it.
Yeah. So, but here's another part of knowing that I think. Sometimes we know just enough, mm-hmm. and that's to me that's a dangerous. People say just enough to be dangerous,
right?
And a lot of times when it comes to our marriage, we want to know just enough to get by,
mm-hmm.
And because the process starts, when we're dating or when we meet, so we start to learn all the stuff, their likes, their dislikes, and so we know that stuff just enough to keep our spouses happy.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of knowing is that things change.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be a continual student.
There you go.
Can I say it that way?
That's exactly what I was going to
say. A continual student of your spouse,
mm-hmm.
because things change, because they change. Mm-hmm. And so what they liked 20 years ago, mm-hmm. they may not like today.
Mm-hmm.
And what they thought was okay 20 years ago, or they thought something that wasn't okay 20 years ago,
mm-hmm.
is now okay. And so that's one of the things I really appreciate about us, is that I think that we've really done a good job of growing and changing and allowing and giving each other space to grow.
Yeah.
And being okay with the change.
And that change. I think sometimes I was going to say that when you were talking, I thought of that, for the people who do struggle, and it's just like, it's either one or two sides that, man, you really have changed since we got married. Well, shouldn't they have? Shouldn't all of us be growing and maturing and evolving and becoming, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the time. And then you have the other side of the coin where it's just like, I've grown and I've changed and you have not grown,
mm-hmm.
And remained the same. And then we have to figure that out. Like, mm-hmm. why are you not growing or pursuing mm-hmm. growth? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the marriage struggles because now we get into one spouse is in one place and the other one is still when they got married 10, 15 years ago,
mm-hmm.
And so realizing that the goal for all of us is that we are growing and changing, that we mm-hmm. are evolving, that we are constantly learning. Like I am in my career, I'm always taking classes or, getting more insight, reading books and things of that nature to continue to grow and to, practice better what I do as a profession,
mm-hmm.
And I think even in marriage, when we attend, things like the EXO marriage conferences mm-hmm. or other things that we found online or read books together and do all of those things, we are constantly trying to grow and become better spouses for one another.
Mm-hmm. And it's like you have to, what I found is that I said it earlier, you have to be willing to be a continuing education
mm-hmm.
is just always and never have the mindset of, okay, I know everything about my spouse.
Right.
And make sure that you're open to, make sure that I'm open to what I don't know. Mm-hmm. And when my spouse shares those things with me, and also giving them, like you always take the space and the grace to share.
Sure.
Because if you're not happy, I want to know. I don't want you to pretend to be happy or to pretend to like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you're doing me a disservice
mm-hmm.
because sometimes we don't want to share those things with our spouse because we want to protect their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, they know.
Mm-hmm. You can feel it.
And they can feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked to so many couples where they'll say something to the effect of, I don't know, I don't know what's wrong, but I know something's wrong. Or something, I don't know what changed, but something changed. So you have to be willing and vulnerable enough to share those things with your spouse so that they can know, and they do know that they're missing the mark. And, our good friends, not really, but Kevin and Melissa Fredericks. They talk about that struggle. Melissa would talk about how she would just get these gifts from her husband, from Kevin, and he bought gifts that he thought that she would like, and she would just take them and just really didn't like them. And she was like, she came to a place that she said she would just start off, listen. I know that you thought that A, B, and C, right. But that's the level you have to grow to in your marriage. If you're gonna have a good thriving, you have to be open, you have to be honest, you got to communicate, and you got to be willing to man up and woman up to say, okay, maybe I was wrong about that, and maybe I didn't know what I thought I knew. And
I'm making some assumptions.
Yeah. You know what they say about assumptions? Now, when you assume. Do I have to say it? I'm not going to say it. This is a family-friendly podcast. You know what they say about it?
I know exactly what they say about
it. So we don't want to do that in marriage. Like we said last week, you got to ask the question. So, that takes us into this last part of how do you discover what you don't know? The first thing that you have to do, you have to ask.
Ask.
How am I doing in this area? How am I doing? What could I be doing better? And be prepared for some, you're doing great, and also be prepared for, well, you're not doing too hot, or, this has changed, or maybe if you could do this differently. And I'm that person now, and I guess maybe it's just growth and maturing, that I want to know. I mean, tell me, tell me what you want. Tell me what you like. Tell me, I thought about something that's for another podcast, though.
Okay. I was gonna say with the ask part, it's just really important to understand one another. And I think sometimes when we hold back and we don't ask questions and we make assumptions, or we don't say something that needs to be said, then you begin to feel, withdrawn, the connection is not there, and your spouse really doesn't have any idea what's going on because you haven't said anything, or you haven't, asked them, well, how do you really feel about this job? I know I'm working, late nights, and, I travel a lot, how do you really feel about it? Or you've taken on this project that's going to pull you away from the family a lot, but you never asked them how they felt about it, and they may not feel good about it, but maybe willing to put in the extra effort at home since you're going to be gone without having, any bitterness or resentment rise up in them because you do ask them how they feel. But when you don't ask, they feel that you're not considering them. And so then you have all of these other things that come along. So it's just, there's a lot that can be, uncovered in just asking questions.
Definitely. So that's the first thing you have to do is ask, and you have to be humble enough to ask.
Yes.
And you have to be brave enough to ask.
Definitely.
All right. The next one is you have to pay attention. And to quote the choir or the student from Sister Act 2, if you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention.
Wake up and pay attention.
So you got to pay attention to your spouse, and just know what, every time you do A, B, and C, they just light up, or they get upset when you say certain things, or their demeanor changes when you say or do certain things, or when you see them, you're watching TV, and every time that ad for that particular thing comes on, they say something, or what have you. You have to pay attention. And I think that's something that I know I need to do a better job at, is just paying attention to my spouse and in all areas, her likes, dislikes, when something's bothering her, I need to be aware of that. And, learn how to ask, going back to the first one, ask the questions that's going to help her flush out the thing that's bothering her, and not just ignoring and saying, there she go again, or there he go again. Is always something, but you need to be paying attention to that.
Right. Be aware. Stay aware.
Awareness. Yes. Yeah. You have anything to add on that?
No, I think that's good. I appreciate you saying that, about your own need to pay attention more and things like that. I definitely appreciate that. I think that's something we probably all can work on. And just approaching the situation, sometimes we see it and we stand back like, but no, you need to approach, in a very loving way and say, hey, can I help? What's going on? I noticed, that you've just been looking a little down and distant, is there something that I can do? You want to talk about it? Just approach the situation, observe the things that they enjoy, that they like you said. Great opportunity to make, some mental notes and, give some just because, if your spouse's love language is gifts and you notice that, he was eyeballing, those golf balls walking through academy,
balls?
I don't know. I just threw something. He don't even play golf like that. But I'm just saying,
golf clubs.
Clubs, okay, but people don't like special golf balls. I thought they make special golf balls. Y'all correct? Let us know. Yeah, golf clubs, whatever.
All right, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong because I don't know. I don't play golf like that.
I don't either, which is why I threw that out there.
So. The other thing is that mistakes don't equal failure. So just try. Sometimes I think we are afraid to try because we are afraid to fail. But if you try something and they be like, no, okay. Well, okay. That's an opportunity to say, well, what do you like? Or what would you like?
Yes. Ask.
So we're always going back to that. So mistakes, know that the mistakes don't equal failure.
That's good.
Mistakes are opportunities to grow. Okay. And then the last thing to understand is that, or to how to discover what you don't know is things happen, stay flexible.
Fluid.
Stay fluid.
Yes.
We don't expect for them to happen, but they happen.
Right.
And then when they do, ask questions, observe, try something new, try something different. Mistakes don't equal failure. So that's how, to get into the know. Yeah. To get into the, what was I got to go back to my Johari window, to stay in the known knowns. These are the things that we have to do to stay in the things that we are aware of and we understand. Yeah. Because in understanding is key too, because just because understanding can bring, and I had a good example, but it just slipped my mind. Guess it wasn't meant to be said on this podcast.
You save it for next time.
I'll save it for next time. So stay in the know, man. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah. Ask, observe, try things, right?
Be adventurous. Stay curious.
Don't be afraid to admit that I don't know. I don't know. And I'm pretty sure if you don't know, here's the great thing. And here's the other reason why you don't have to know everything, because somebody else does know
that's
that. Good. I've heard, really great leaders say stuff like, I don't have to know everything. I hire out what I don't know.
I hear that all the time.
Or I heard one guy say something like, I have 15 degrees. And they were like, how do you have 15 degrees? He's like, well, because I've hired 15 people with these advanced degrees. And so I don't have to have them. Right. They work with me. So where I don't know, then, they can fill in. So ask what you don't know. Don't be afraid to admit it. You don't know what you don't know. Anything else?
Nope, that's good.
All right. So thank you again for watching. As always, please follow us, or thank you, first of all, for following us, for sharing, for commenting, doing all those things. Do more of it. If you've never done it, please follow, like, share, subscribe.
Rate us on the podcast
on the podcast. Yeah, thank you. And you know what else we haven't done in a while is people who leave comments on the podcast, we need to read another comment. Yes. So maybe we'll do that next time. So that's all we got for you this week. So this is Glenn and Tanya Coleman reminding you that your marriage matters. We'll see you next week.
Bye.